Happy Thursday, and welcome to another edition of Husker Online Headlines. Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple, and boy, we got a great show on tap. A lot to talk about here today as we get you through the rest of the week. But before we get to the headlines, if you're not a member or not a subscriber, no better time to check out HuskerOnline.com. We got a deal for the YouTube viewers and our podcast listeners here. Get 2 months of access for $1. Just use that promo code NU1. That's 2 months for $1. Promo code NU1. We've had a lot of coverage yesterday on Wednesday, Sipple. I mean, it was one of those days where, and that's how news works. You don't really know how the news cycle is going to flow, and Wednesday ended up being a very busy day. It's filled our headlines here as we get into Thursday. And let's start it out with headline number one. Nebraska's prize 5-star quarterback recruit Dylan Raiola already getting to work, already owning the stage and the spotlight. He was present, sitting courtside next to athletic director Trev Alberts at Pinnacle Bank Arena for the sold-out game against Indiana. Even got a shout out on the Husker on the big screen boards. Are they called Husker Vision and PBA?
Probably
on the Husker Vision boards.
You're safe on that.
But there he is pregame with
There's
Trev
the big
Alberts.
horse.
But the reason Dylan Raiola is in town already, because he's going to go out to the Polynesian Bowl here later this month. But you know, they've got him to work on these receivers. Nebraska will be hosting 2 transfer portal wide receivers. One was Wednesday and the other here Thursday. Isaiah Nair from Texas, and then Jamal Banks from Wake Forest, both in Lincoln, both priority transfer portal targets. Who know better to lead the sales pitch than the 5-star quarterback?
Well, yeah, and I mean, yeah, he's kind of working. I mean,
he needs him.
Yeah, he needs him. The program needs him. It would help him. So he kind of came to Lincoln to work. These quarterbacks. I mean, if you're a highly touted quarterback, and you know someone who could I'm not saying he is now, could become the face of the program, a lot's expected, and he's working. I mean, the day before, Sean, he had a throwing session with 2 NFL receivers. Mohamed Sanu is probably the most notable one, 11-year veteran of the NFL. He organized a throwing session. So think of what he's done already this week. Just a high school kid had a throwing session with NFL receivers, then comes to Lincoln and is a critical element in Nebraska's bid to land these critical transfer portal players. It's a lot. I wasn't doing that when I was 17.
Well, and you think about, we don't know what his NIL deal is for Nebraska, but he's probably getting paid a sizable amount of money. And, you know, there's things that come with that. Like,
yeah, it's a good way to look at it. They are getting paid now. I mean, they are. It is kind of like a job. They are professionals, and we're all adjusting to that. But yeah, part of that is show up and do your part. Your part.
Think of just that picture alone. I mean, in your time covering Nebraska athletics, when have you ever seen a student athlete who's not even technically in classes yet sitting courtside next to the athletic?
Oh, no, yeah, I haven't seen it.
I mean, it's unreal when you think about, like, to see that picture of how powerful this recruit was to come to Nebraska, that the athletic director with a high school senior sitting courtside.
A high school senior, and that's the thing. I don't want to sound like do not do your get off the lawn thing, Sean, but we got to keep in mind that he is only a high school senior. I mean, you have 2 daughters, and pretty soon they're going to be
high school kids.
They're going to be high school kids, and you're going to think, man, are they ready for this world? And I mean, I think Dylan is pretty advanced, but I'm not going to be the one leading the way on putting pressure on him. I mean, he hasn't even thrown a pass in practice yet.
I do think the road he's traveled, I mean, honestly, playing for multiple different high school programs has probably helped him understand and learn a lot.
Sure.
Because they're all good programs, Burleson and Chandler, and then obviously Buford in Georgia. But then his father, I mean, with his background, and then his uncle so he's got quite a camp of people around him.
Oh, for sure.
And he's traveled the road to get ready for this. I mean, there's not, now, if you didn't have moms and dads and family members that have been on this type of road before, it would be hard. But I do think the fact that
helps.
He's got a lot of people around him that have prepared him, and he's had a spotlight on him since his freshman year of high school.
I'm sure he's used to the spotlight, and I hope he kind of enjoys it because it's not going to go away. unless he doesn't perform. I mean, a lot of this will come down to performance, and that is to come. We'll see what it looks like. He's got to win the job. I mean, he's got to go win a job.
Did you know they actually put him on the big screen board though?
I was listening to the game, and Sam Hoiberg was shooting free throws, and then there was this eruption. Sam Hoiberg. It wasn't for Sam Hoiberg making a free throw. It was for Dylan Raiola.
Now, I saw a lot of other coaches there. I didn't see Rule, though. I don't know if Rule was in the arena or not last night. But I saw, obviously, Donovan Raiola was sitting with Dylan.
Okay.
Ron Brown was there, Keith Williams, and the recruiting staff, because I believe Naor was at the game.
Yeah, that's what you thought, right?
He's on the visit. It's just so hard to make out who a guy, but he wasn't sitting in the court side. He wasn't sitting in the Jack Nicklaus tickets or the courtside tickets.
Yeah, with Diane Cannon. Hey, Naor is big. I mean, and it is a very intelligent thing to bring those kids to a basketball game, because it's a great arena and it's a great crowd. I mean, you got a full crowd. They get a good taste of Nebraska fans. You bring them to an Indiana game, a Nebraska-Indiana game. Nebraska against the Blue Blood. Nebraska hammers the Blue Blood 87-60, I think was the final. And you get a taste of Husker Nation. That, I mean, Naor, Isaiah had to be impressed.
Well, just think about the picture of him seeing Raiola and the attention he got. I mean, he's coming from Texas.
Right.
And it's a big spotlight, but I just have to think the spotlight and stage Raiola is getting right now, it wouldn't be that way at Texas necessarily.
Probably not.
It wouldn't be that way at Georgia.
Probably not.
No. Like if Raiola was a commit to Georgia right now and went to a Georgia Bulldog basketball game, would he be sitting next to the athletic director courtside?
No.
B, would they show him on the big screen of a basketball game and the entire Bulldog arena would erupt? No.
Now, I mean,
some might say that's a little much.
Right. I'm not saying it's good or bad, but you're right. It's not. It wouldn't be the case. I don't know which situation's better.
It's a different landscape here.
Yeah, it's just different, and I just leave it at that. Again, it'll come down to how Dylan handles it, how well Dylan handles all this attention. But I don't think it's about that. To me, Sean, I just keep it on a very simple level. He was here to do a job. He wasn't here for the adulation. I don't think. I think he came to that game not for attention. He came to that game to do a job, and that is try to bolster his receiver core.
Well, and Nebraska fans, rightfully so, are very excited about it. I mean, it's like they hit a lottery here, and Dylan Raiola is the brand new shiny boat or truck, and they love it. I mean, everyone's excited about it.
Yeah, I'm not sure I would say they hit a lottery until he throws a pass.
Well,
because we'll see on that. But
they just couldn't have gotten a guy like this if not for the family connection.
Right. There's so much potential is what you're getting at. There's just so much potential for a great story. But it has to, I mean, you just can't, you just got to see how it plays out. But right now, I just keep it very much in a moment. He gives you a great chance to get a receiver and maybe two of them. And maybe then Dante Dowdell, Dylan, I imagine, I don't know. I haven't talked to Dom about this. If is Dylan staying around this weekend? I don't know. I don't know what his duties are, but you said something really interesting to me. And that is, now that these guys are getting paid, and handsomely in Dylan's case, you kind of feel less guilty about saying things like, you got to put him to work.
We need you here.
Yeah, we need you here, and we need you helping. And you're being paid very well.
You're making more money than all the assistant coaches, pretty much. Like,
yeah, you're making as much as the offensive coordinator. Maybe.
I mean, we think.
Yeah,
I mean, you need to be here.
Right.
But all right, before we take it to headline number 2, HuskerOnline headlines brought to you by Omaha Steaks. And let me tell you, they've got some great specials and deals right now at Omaha Steaks. Not only can you get 50% off on several, if not all, their main boxes, HuskerOnline, we're going to give you an additional $30 off. Now, there is a minimum you have to spend. You can't just spend $30 and get $30 off the bill at the end. But you'll get $30 off with promo code Husker at Omaha Steaks. And so many great options. I just got through a box at our house, and the quality is superb when you look at Omaha Steaks and the different products they have. And it's not just steak, by the way. They have hamburgers, hot dogs, pork, chicken, side items, desserts, gift boxes, so many great options. Get on the website, check it out. Omaha Steaks. You'll get $30 off at checkout by simply using promo code Husker. Okay, let's take it in to that second headline. Let's size up the transfer portal weekend for Nebraska. We've hit on Isaiah Nayor, Jamal Banks from Wake Forest, the two receivers, but they're also going to address some other positions this week. There's a 5-day window where you can bring in visitors. Dante Dowdell, the running back from Oregon, as you mentioned, will be here. Then a couple of linebackers of note, Idaho linebacker Excree Alexander, and then Syracuse linebacker Stephon Thompson. Both guys that could probably play that inside linebacker. You lose Reimer. You lose Nick Henrich. You lose Garrett Snodgrass. A lot of veterans are out of that room, and it's clear they need to find some guys. So there's a lot there, Steve Sipple, when you size up what this portal weekend will be with 5 guys making their way to campus here over that 5-day window.
Oh, God. Yeah, and I'm not suggesting that these are any single one of these guys are program-changing type players, but they all of their credentials, each one of them, if you look at the credentials of each, clearly they would be helpful. And in a couple cases, probably really helpful, and maybe even like a starter. I mean, I think a guy like Jamal Banks, if you look at his production, 107 catches at Wake Forest, and you've mentioned it, 600 yards in each of the last 2 seasons, could feasibly be your number 1 receiver. I mean, he's 6'4", 205 pounds. He's a veteran player, very reliable. I mean, he's and if you watch him, great body control, great hands. Not a blazer, but good enough speed. Nayor is interesting because his big season was 2021. So a while ago, he
at Wyoming.
At Wyoming, hurt his knee at Texas. Had a good spring at Texas. Hurt his knee in the fall of 2022.
Out for the year,
and then didn't just
get off the ground.
Didn't get off the ground in 2023, but in 2021, he was a second team. What is it, Mountain West?
Second team all Mountain West with over 800 yards receiving.
44 catches. 12. Now, what gets my attention is 12 touchdown catches. 12 touchdown catches in a season. So 6'3", 215.
And you know the kind of offense Craig Bull's running. It wasn't like a high-volume throw offense.
No.
It's an under-center pro style. So to have that type of production and that system tells you he was a dude.
Yeah, 12 touchdown catches in a season tells me that. I mean, that's who they're going to. I mean, when they got down close, that's probably who they're going to a lot, as 12 touchdown catches suggest. And I have just become sort of obsessed with how hard it is in the Big Ten when you get first and goal at the 7, first and goal at the 8, first and goal at the 9. It's really hard to get in. I mean, it's
because you ain't getting open.
No, you don't get, and it's hard if you don't have an offensive line that's dominant. Even if you do have an offensive line that's dominant in the Big Ten, it's hard.
And they're not going to just throw flags. I mean, there's a lot of grabbing and pulling.
So what you need is those big tight ends, big receivers. They give you a great chance. If you can put a 6'3", a 6'4", Malachi Coleman, what's Malachi? 6'3"?
6'3"-ish.
Yeah, you put 3 guys lined up like that, it gives you a chance. It gives you a better chance. It gives you a much better chance.
Yeah, Nayor, when he went in the portal after Wyoming, he was the hottest receiver in the portal. I mean, it was Tennessee, USC, Florida, Mississippi, and then Texas.
Yeah, these guys are critical. I mean, it's just I just don't think we can emphasize enough on this, how big this is getting these 5 guys in here.
Well, and Dowdell, would give them, they didn't take a running back in the high school class.
Right.
Well, Dowdell has 3 to play 4, or 4 to play 3, excuse me. He played more than 4 games as a true freshman.
At Oregon.
So it's not like he's got a lot of mileage.
No.
The only reason he's leaving Oregon is the top 2 running backs who went for over 1,800 yards at Oregon are both coming back.
Well, no, Irving's gone. I mean, he went to the pros, but your point's taken. They're loaded still at the top. One of their guys went to the NFL, but I looked at their stats and their depth chart. Yeah, he's down. He'd be 3rd probably.
And he didn't get like a clear read, but he was one of the top high school running backs in the country
8th.
A year ago.
8th in the country, ranked 8th, top 10 running back. Yeah, in Mississippi, which you're better at this stuff than I am, but that's good football, right? I mean, Mississippi.
Oh yeah, I mean he was Mr. Football in Mississippi.
4-star guy, and I'm not. I'm not saying he'll take over Nebraska's running back room, but I definitely could see a scenario where he and Gabe Ervin Jr. are the bell cows.
And Ramirez kind of a third down guy, maybe?
Absolutely. And Ramirez capable of more than being a third
now
down.
We get a lot of pushback on this. Why are we not saying Emmett Johnson's the guy? I mean, I just go back.
He's the fourth guy.
I go back to pre-injury. Those guys were ahead of him.
Right.
And if they all come back healthy, like you would, I mean,
it's nothing against Emmett Johnson.
Gabe Ervin started at Nebraska as a true freshman. He's the first true freshman in the history of the program to start a season opener.
He started at Illinois in
2021 as a true frosh.
Right. He started at Oklahoma that year. I mean, yeah, it's nothing against Emmett Johnson. These are veterans ahead of him. This is you mentioned Gabe Ervin. This is Ramir Johnson, who's 24, 23 years old, who's a grown man now. I mean, and happens to have credentials. We've seen him against Michigan in a big game make a huge catch. We've seen him as a true freshman play and run
Iowa. He ran well.
And we've seen him in the fire. Now we've seen Emmett Johnson in the fire too. Emmett Johnson will be needed, but you can't. You can only play one guy back there.
Well,
so now listen, I could see it being Ervin, Dante Dowdell, Ramir, Emmett Johnson, and they got Ives.
Nobody in the Big Ten takes 20 carries a game on average. It's just not possible. And look at the numbers.
Nobody, hardly anybody.
Like the top backs in this league, the top are like 15 to 18 carries, top average. So this fantasy world that people like, we need one bell cow. No, it ain't going to happen.
It doesn't exist in the Big
Ten. You need two guys, at least two, that can split about 30 carries.
Yeah.
And three that can maybe go 35-ish or more.
Come on. I mean, just read the board here. I mean, you see what Rule wants to do. He talks about it openly, how he wants to run the offense. And he's the one who says the words body blows. Sean, body blows? Dante Dowdell's 6'2", 218. Gabe Ervin's 6 foot 225. Those are body blow backs. Ramir runs with abandon. I mean, he's a tough runner.
Well, and they're not going to be running the option with Dylan Raiola.
No, hell no. I mean, they might mix in occasional speed option, but not like they did
what we saw with Harburg and Chuba, like that kind of stuff.
I mean, and they're not doing that with Kalen either.
Raiola has the arm talent that you don't have to do that.
Right. But here's what that coaching staff, I'm sure, is thinking right now. No, he doesn't. You're going to take away the quarterback run game, but what makes up for it is his downfield throwing ability. And this is why Dowdell's so important. They're counting on the downhill running game. They're counting on the running backs leading the team in rushing, which hasn't happened at Nebraska very often in recent years.
Well, and I still think if Raiola is the guy, there is a way that you can utilize Harburg as a runner. Like in a package or a role. I think
absolutely
there's a way he can still help this team.
Absolutely.
And I want to hit on those linebackers too, because Alexander from Idaho and
Stephon Thompson.
Thompson was a starter for Tony White at Syracuse as a true freshman.
And he's a veteran player.
He's got 2 years of eligibility.
Okay.
On a 6-year clock remaining. Alexander has 3 years. So these are two guys that have put up numbers in production. Can they get them both? I think that's my question. Would they take them both? That's my question.
That's a good question.
I mean, there's a lot there, but all 5 of these guys would help Nebraska.
Yep.
All 5.
I mean, Alexander had 75 tackles as a true freshman for a 9-4 Idaho team. 75 tackles as a true freshman for a 9-4 team that lost in the quarterfinals of the FCS playoffs. Thompson, I don't have his numbers, but they were pretty good. I mean, he played a lot of ball. Again, he has the Tony White connection. That's probably a lot of the reason he's here. You're right. So we covered the other guys. It's a good group of portal players they brought in, and we'll see see how it shakes out.
And I mean, they don't necessarily have the room on this roster, but you got to make room. That's what it comes down to.
It's a whole nother discussion, but
yeah. And so,
yeah.
And look, we don't need people want to get into like how they're going to do it. Look, it's like tax write-offs. You don't ask people what they write off on their taxes or how they manage their books.
They're usually not going to tell you.
They're not going to tell you. So in the same way with the scholarships right now and NIL and all the intricacies of this, it's kind of working your tax books here. You have to figure out a way to get your roster at 85. And there's a lot of ways to do it.
Yeah, what's happened to me, the way it's sprung up is fascinating with these 5 guys. I mean, I really tip my cap to the staff that they're giving it hell, and that's all you can ask for.
Okay, headline 3, as we're going through HuskerOnline headlines here, Nebraska makes 3 in-state offers for 2025. And I'll be honest, I mean, I have a pretty good pulse of the in-state. It was a surprise the way this all played out on Wednesday.
Okay.
As Matt Rule in the afternoon just said, we're going to make a statement. You know, coaches go back on the road January 12th. Before anybody even steps foot in my state, Nebraska, we're gonna make 3 more in-state offers. This crap where you think, oh, we found this guy before Nebraska, we offered you first before Nebraska. No.
Is this Matt Rule talking or Sean Callahan?
It's me talking because I've seen it.
But you're Matt Rule.
Just like the way things. I mean, okay, like the Rezak offer last year when he got the Notre Dame.
Anthony
offer,
Rezak, yeah.
Teddy.
Oh, Teddy.
He's going to Notre Dame, and they offered before Nebraska. And you play this like second fiddle. Oh, somebody knew about a guy in Omaha before Nebraska.
Okay.
And I think they have 8 offers out right now for 25 already. 8.
You know, you really don't worry about Rule being lacking aggression. He's a pretty aggressive dude. He's an aggressive guy.
So you go through these names: Pierce Mooberry, Miller North, productive linebacker. Fred Petito's been high on this guy for years. Now,
Pierce Mooberry.
Fred Petito retired, but Pierce Mooberry's dad, Brandon Mooberry, Lexington, Nebraska native, played for Nebraska.
96 to 2000. I remember him pretty well, actually.
Was he a contributor?
He played a little bit, not much. Played a little bit.
Pierce Mooberry,
defender.
Had Iowa State and Minnesota offer. So he did have offers before Nebraska. But this is big. Jackson Carpenter. Now, this is a guy that we both know really well.
His family.
You, the Columbus roots. I mean, both his mom and dad are Columbus natives. And
his mom was a next door neighbor of mine in Columbus.
And I work out with her, and she was a tough athlete.
She was a very good athlete.
Tim is his father, Tim, was one of the best athletes to come out of Columbus in recent history.
Dude.
He was
he has 3 national championship rings.
Started tight end on the 97 team at tight end.
Yes, and he was a good one. Big time block.
But Jackson is explosive. He's 6'2". He's like 190.
6'2", 190. 28 catches, Sean, last season for 514 yards and 7 touchdowns.
But he never ran track before in his life till his sophomore year. His first year running track, he ran 10.75 first year. And he's probably been dunking since the 8th grade. He's really explosive.
Big ups.
So
I've seen his dad one time showed me a video of him in a basketball game, just said, hey, look, check this. This is my son. And he was flying.
I would say the likelihood of both Mooberry and Carpenter being Huskers is high. And then the other one is really an interesting offer. Riemann Ziebert from Springfield Platteview. He's a tight end, 6'6", 205, 86 or 84, 86-inch wingspan. He runs a 400-meter.
50.51
and has a broad jump of
I don't know that.
I think 115 or 116.
Yeah. And you know what? His it's 50 point lower than 50. I think it's 50.19 actually, but he blazes. He's a blazer.
But yeah, Springfield Platteview, not a program known to produce like high level prospects like this, and he made a comment to our own Grant Hansen and some others. I mean, I think there's been pressure on this kid to probably transfer and go to other programs in the Omaha area because he's a legit player. But he's stayed at Springfield Platteview. He's done a great job there, and he's got a Nebraska offer.
You know who's on him? Iowa State, Wisconsin, Kansas State. You don't want to lose a tight end type, another one, to Iowa State. Nebraska lost Ben Bramer. Right?
K-State was on him too.
Yeah. Ben Bramer went to Iowa State and had a good freshman year. You don't want to see that repeat. You don't want Wisconsin to come into Lincoln with a kid from right in your backyard playing that position.
I looked this up last year, and I'd have to go back and see where the numbers are now, but the state of Nebraska produces more Power 5 tight ends than like California and Texas.
Why?
It doesn't even make sense.
Why is that?
It does not even make sense.
No, it doesn't.
We have far and away a far smaller population. This state produces, it's not even a per capita. Like They had more Power 5 tight ends than like California and all these other states.
So strange.
And, Vince Marrow, former Bo Pelini assistant, who's now a renowned recruiter at Kentucky, we had this conversation before, and he was a tight end in the NFL, and he's just like, Sean, there's just something about Nebraska. There's just a lot of tight end type kids there. And even at Kentucky, he was coming around to look at guys back then. But there are just every year. I mean, look at this year: Eric Ingwerson, Carter Nelson,
right.
And I'm probably forgetting.
Yeah, you don't do that to me. But yeah, I mean, this is one. Riemann Ziebert is one to keep an eye on.
Yeah, because he's got some freakish athletic ability.
6'6", 205. Yeah, it's a big one. Again, it catches my eye that Wisconsin's already on him, Iowa State's already on him.
Well, and it was kind of one of those ones where nobody had to make the first move. But if you would have let it get into January 12th for that whole month, when coaches start doing their laps around Nebraska, that's when maybe somebody would have jumped the line and offered before Nebraska.
Okay, you need to help me with something here. What I was really impressed with yesterday, and credit to Grant Hansen for his reporting, is that all these kids talked about how Rule was the one who called and made the offer. That Matt Rule, the head coach, was the one who did it.
And naturally, a lot of these kids missed the call because when you don't know who's calling, you don't, in today's robo call world, you don't answer your phone.
Right. And then, like Mooberry, like, he didn't recognize it. And Rule said, could you give me a call back? That's Matt Rule. That's the head coach of Nebraska. I'm trying to think of how it would have felt if you were a kid, Sean, and you got a call from Tom Osborne that said, could you please call me back? I mean, what a moment. Now, my question to you is, has that always been the case with Nebraska head coaches? Do they all make those calls and those offers?
Yes and no. It can vary. Like Frost was obviously hit and miss. I mean, there were some that he would and some that he wouldn't. But you're right. I mean,
I know Riley was good about it.
At this stage of the cycle, though, in January of junior years, Matt Rule recognizes him kind of getting involved in the sale will help close the deal.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right.
Like
now,
sometimes when you have like Foley's like your territorial salesman, you bring in the GM to kind of help close the deal. And Matt Rule offering over Foley, maybe there were multiple FaceTime calls. I know Jackson Carpenter FaceTimed with a lot of the coaches. And
I just like that picture that, the head coach leaving a message for a kid, call me back when you get a chance, and then making that offer.
When they're up there working all week. I mean, this staff got up there this week and they're up there working.
The other part of the conversation that's really interesting and it's good because we cover this stuff throughout the off season, throughout the summer, is the camps are critical. Jackson Carpenter, for instance, I can remember him at camp and him making an impression on them in camp this summer. I don't know about Mooberry and Ziebert, but I can distinctly remember Carpenter.
Ziebert had been to a couple games this year, so he was on the radar. And
was he at camps?
I don't know if he went to camp for sure, but he'd been to games. Mm-hmm. And give Foley credit because he goes into every school.
Yeah,
Ed Foley. I mean, he has gone into more schools than any individual Nebraska assistant I've seen, especially when it's just been 1 year.
Yeah, if you care about the program, you like what you're seeing. I mean, there's a level of aggression that's good. I'm not saying that these guys are setting the world on fire. They came up, they're 5-7 this year, but
they're building it though.
Yeah, I just like the look of this. I just like the look of it, and I like the look of the camps because when I think about all this, these in-state kids, the camps are really important to Rule. I mean, he wants in-state kids to go to these camps he has and prove themselves. And Rule's there with a stopwatch. I think I saw him time in Carpenter actually.
What happens is if you run well, then you move over to the Rule line.
See, that's fascinating.
And then think if you're a 15, 16-year-old kid and you get moved over to the Rule line and then he's down there. I mean, how much juice you'd have in you.
A lot of juice. And then there's some pressure. So the coaches get to see how you respond in that scenario. Firsthand. And you can't tell me all head coaches are doing that. I've seen it. I mean, head coaches sometimes give a nice speech at the start of a camp and then they're nowhere to be found. Rule, God. I mean, Rule treats it like a practice. He's very aggressive. That's what I like about him. He's an aggressive guy.
Callahan at camps, Bill Callahan, it was always interesting because obviously he was a lineman guy.
Yeah, offensive.
So there was always at least one of the camps where his prime lineman targets he'd want to have go there to work out would be there.
Mm-hmm.
And he would suit up like he's going to practice. He'd take off the dress clothes, come down and he would run these high school kids through kind of a pre-draft NFL lineman workout.
Wow. Yeah.
And I watched him.
There's no better offensive line coach in the world probably right now.
Gabe Karimi, Outland Trophy winner from Wisconsin.
Yeah, remember him.
Didn't even have an offer from anybody yet. Shows up to Nebraska's camp. And Callahan worked out Gabe Carini. And I'm just thinking to myself, this kid's incredible.
Really?
And he had no offers. I created his profile for my old company, rivals.com back then. That day ends up being an Outland winner, but they didn't offer him.
That's incredible what you just told
me.
Because they didn't offer him.
Well, because they knew Wisconsin was gonna. Kevin Cosgrove, former bat, and they just kind of said, let's let it play out because he'll be a Badger. But yeah, it was interesting that they didn't offer him back then. But yeah, Bill Callahan was hands-on to an extent in some of those ways too, just like Matt Rule, as far as getting in those camp things. All right, take it to headline 4.
Okay.
We got the national championship game on Monday, Michigan, Washington. It's an all Big Ten final when you kind of start to think about 2024. This is big in a lot of ways. I mean, you think about the momentum this is for this conference going into 2024. We'll be at Big Ten Media Days, wherever it's going to be this year. Oh, yeah. And no matter what, the national championship is going to be there. No matter what, 5 or 6 teams are going to be there.
It's pretty impressive. So the matchup is, I think it's too close to call. The things that jump out to me right away are Michigan's pass rush versus Washington's offensive line, which was voted by a panel to be the best offensive line in the country, that they won the Joe Moore Award. Can Michigan's pressure get to Michael Penix like it got to Jalen Milroe? I don't know. They sacked Milroe 6 times, 5 in the first half. Michigan did. Can they get to Penix like that? How do Michigan's corners, slot safety, whatever, how do they match up with those receivers, those incredibly gifted Washington receivers? The thing that keeps there's an intangible that I just can't get past, and I think it gives Michigan the edge. Michigan is just on this strange, we're going to show the world kind of tour right now, where they got hit with these incredible allegations, one of the biggest scandals in recent memory in college football, and they've just kind of flipped the bird to the whole country, and they're riding it, and they have this incredible mojo right now. So it's hard to pick against Michigan. In fact, I won't pick against Michigan. I think Michigan will win the game.
Yeah, I think, and what really fascinates me is how little of a turnaround you get for this game.
Oh my God, you're right.
You play Monday night.
Right.
If you're in, past midnight, Washington flies back to Seattle. I mean, it would have made New Orleans to Houston's you could drive
short.
That. Yeah. People drive that,
It was short. Yeah.
And I don't understand. I guess they may not have been prepared to, but why wouldn't Washington have just stayed down in New Orleans?
I don't know.
It's probably a lot more work than you think, but instead they'll go back to Seattle, do a couple days practice, and then they'll fly out Friday. And there's an arrival event on Friday, and then Saturday is an all-day media day. And then Sunday is a head coach press conference.
So how did the veteran play? I mean, a lot of this, you're right. There's no doubt that that's a factor in the conversation. Your players have to handle that. I mean, who's better? Who handles that better? They're veteran team. Hey, these are veteran teams. They'll handle it.
I think Michigan has an edge, though. I mean, Harbaugh's been a part of Super Bowl weeks. He understands how to.
Yeah, I think Harbaugh gives them a little edge over. I know you think DeBoer's probably the best coach that's ever come along, but
oh gosh, no,
he's good. I like him too.
I love the pre-snap stuff he does.
I know
it's amazing to watch how it all plays out. I mean, he gets people open every play.
Oh, I know their offense is crazy good. It'll be a tough game.
We thought Scott Frost's offense was going to do that to Nebraska,
and DeBoer did it.
And DeBoer's done it. And
the other thing I'd say that there was I just found it fascinating yesterday what happened in this world. And that is J.J. McCarthy addressing on a teleconference, being asked about the scandal, the Connor Stallions scandal, and speaking freely about it, which is which again is just Michigan. I just saw that as a Michigan flex that somebody must have told JJ McCarthy. If they ask you, go ahead and talk about it. It's fine. You know, Sean, you've covered Nebraska football for a long time, and you've covered scandal at Nebraska, right? Not like this, but we've covered some tough situations, right? And what are players often told? Just let the coach handle that.
Just say, I'm not going to comment on that.
Right. We'll let the coach handle it. No, you know what happened? JJ McCarthy addressed it. I mean, he said Ohio State was stealing signs legally for a long time, and they had the upper hand on us. Remember, in 2019, Ohio State beat Michigan 56-27. 2019 didn't play in 2020 because Michigan backed out. COVID.
Oh, that game I thought they played.
Didn't play. No, 220.
It didn't play.
No game in 2020. So Ohio State hammered Michigan in 2019. Michigan had to respond. Well, McCarthy said that, yeah, we had to take some measures. Now, he said that 80% of college football steals signs. So he couched it that way. And everybody just kind of nodded and said, okay, all right, that's it. It doesn't even feel like a scandal anymore. How often is it brought up?
Well, that's why, like at Nebraska, I think people like Rule cannot understand why Nebraska in today's world is on the other sideline, because it's just a prime view of sign stealing.
Oh, that Nebraska's on the
like
east
when they
side
call their plays.
Yeah.
Like when you're on the east sideline in the press
at
box
Memorial Stadium
with binoculars. Coaches have binoculars up there, I'm pretty sure. Like they can.
Oh yeah.
They have a clear vision of Nebraska signs, where on the other end you always see people holding up the papers to block. Do
you think Nebraska will be on the west sideline this year?
So the biggest thing they've got to do, I think it's going to happen for sure when the stadium gets renovated, but they've got to readjust the depth of the sidelines, because right now the west sideline has more depth.
The west does, or the east does?
Or the east, excuse me. The east has more depth, and Nebraska, it allows Nebraska to have more things over there for their home roster. Okay. The west side does not.
It does have some depth though. West,
not near as much though.
Okay,
not near as much. So when you suit up over 100 players in a home game,
yeah, it's a lot.
You have to have. I mean, so there's a lot that goes into it. Now during the COVID year, Scott Frost went over. They switched.
That's right.
Because it didn't matter. I mean, nobody was in those stadiums.
Gosh, I know what I would do. I'd be on the west side if I were Rule. I'd just move it over
and just figure.
If the room is not that bad. I mean, there's sidelines that we go to that are way more
it's the depth of the fence. Like the fence is deeper on the east.
Just move the damn fence back then.
Well, you have to reline the field, and I mean, there's pretty much like a road around the stadium. Like there's enough room for like a full garbage truck to drive on there, because I've seen it. Where you go to Iowa and these other stadiums, there is no sideline.
No, that's what I'm saying though. I mean, just
make it work.
Yeah, make it work. I mean, don't worry about it too much,
because you know that they have a prime view of
right. But anyway, the way that Michigan has just kind of treated that Connor Stallion, it's not only the Connor Stallions scandal, it's a computer crime scandal that got a coach fired last year that the FBI has looked into. It is Jim Harbaugh allegedly lying to NCAA investigators about COVID recruiting. It's 3 scandals, essentially, that they've just managed to stiff arm and bully their way to the national title game, where they have a great shot to win. And I just think they've embraced this sort of bad boy thing, and it's worked for them.
Correct me if I'm wrong, even with Ward Manuel, the Michigan AD, there was some tension with him and Harbaugh, right?
Oh my God, he about fired him after the COVID year. They were sub 500.
Santa Otto, the president, him and Harbaugh are on the same page.
They are on the same page. I would say Manuel and Harbaugh, what I was told in August by one of the Michigan writers for On 3 was that Harbaugh and Manuel weren't on the same page going into the season. So, Ward Manuel just about fired him, Sean. After they finished sub 500, you double check the record, but I think they're sub 500 in the 2020 season, in the COVID season.
Ward Manuel was the former AD of Buffalo that hired Turner Gill. I mean, I remember we used to call him back then.
We sure did. I talked to Ward.
He was
Manuel
pretty
quite-
easy to reach back in the
He
day.
was. He was strangely easy to reach. He's a friend of Mickey Joseph. Played football with Mickey in New Orleans when they were kids. So I know he bounces stuff off Mickey. I know that for a fact.
Yeah, well, I mean, you think, just for the record, you think this will be Harbaugh's final game
Yep.
at Michigan?
Yep, I do. Yeah. I mean,
But
I'm not just talking pure speculation. I mean, you talk to coaches around the country. I do too. No, I think this will be it for Jim.
Well, and Mike Greenberg on ESPN had even said something similar. He had heard some really interesting things from NFL people.
Yeah.
That this will be it for Harbaugh, and whether San Diego or
there's two
not
factors.
San Diego, the LA Chargers.
There's factors that you have to look at, and that is what at some point there's got to be some sort of punishment. And the second part is what's JJ McCarthy's future? If JJ McCarthy would come back, would that affect Jim Harbaugh's decision? I don't know.
Is he a first rounder though? I don't think he is.
No, I don't think so. But I think he's first 3 rounds.
Yeah, I don't know if his stock can grow much higher either. If they win the national championship,
he looks like a system guy to me.
But he could be like a late second, third round type guy, which is still.
Yeah. Now, I've seen him as projected as high as the 7th pick overall to the Raiders. I've seen him projected that high. But come on. I mean, one thing we've learned is the quarterback draft is sort of hard to predict something.
Yeah, like nobody could have said Mahomes was going to do what he did.
Right.
I mean,
right.
It's
really unpredictable.
You just don't really know. All right. Let's close out the show. Final headline. Headline number 5. Nebraska basketball 12-2 after a dominating win Wednesday night over Indiana. And it was, students aren't in town, so you had to kind of create some energy. And Nebraska's players brought the energy. Keisei Tominaga had one of his best games. There was Japanese media in town. Keisei Tominaga's family was there, and he just sliced up Indiana's 4- and 5-star players. I mean, they might be better pro-looking bodies, but man, Keisei Tominaga plays hard. He understands the game of basketball, and he hits shots when he gets a look. And when Fred Hoiberg's team plays its best basketball, that's what it's going to look like. We saw it on Wednesday night.
28 points for Tominaga. Rink masked played, which was huge.
He gave him a presence.
Yeah, and he had a procedure done on a knee on December 18th. So he came back quick. I think he only practiced 1.5 times, I think.
And his family was in town as well from overseas. So both the Tominaga and Mass family were at the game last night.
Here's the stat for you. In the last 21 games, Nebraska men's basketball 17-4. Okay. They're 17-4 in the last 21. I've been very critical of Fred, but there's nothing. I mean, that's just good. That's solid. 2 losses to Minnesota in there, and that kind of mars it a little bit. But 17-4, 17-4. And I don't even want to hear, well, they played an easy non-conference schedule this year. You still got to win the games. And he's got a good team, and I emphasize team. It's about what I expected, actually. They're a team. Tominaga's very good, obviously, but they don't have to rely on him. Bryce Williams can dig you out of holes or put you or just carry the team for a while. Mast can score. Jamarcus Lawrence is pretty capable of scoring. So Fred, and Juwan Gary can shoot it. I just give Fred a lot of credit, and I don't know if this was what he was trying to do, but he's taken pressure off Tominaga with what he's put around him. And so it's a good look. They look like a team in a bad league that could win 12 or 13 games.
My fear at the Big Ten right now is it's going to be underbidded. Like it does
legit
not
fear.
It's not going to be a 10-9 bid league. It's going to be more like 6 or 7. And
they can get in there though.
The net doesn't like Nebraska that much yet.
Not yet.
That can change quickly.
Yeah, go beat Wisconsin on the road on Saturday. That'd be one way to do it.
But Indiana was 2-0 in the league.
Yeah, Indiana's down, though. They're down. They don't shoot it well. They didn't shoot bad last night, though. 9 for 18 from the three-point line. You know what they did, though? They turned it over 19 times. Indiana had 19 turnovers. Now, that's a credit to Nebraska.
Ooh.
It is. Nebraska plays defense. Nebraska's different than Fred's early teams. They're not, it's not a star power team, Nebraska, but they play tough defense and they play as a team.
Boy, and Mike Woodson, the Indiana head coach, he's going to be under some heat because they have material.
Yeah.
But he's running it like a G League team, it feels like. It doesn't feel like it's being run like a cohesive college team.
Yeah, they don't.
I mean,
they just don't shoot it well.
like
Sean.
if you just looked at bodies and rankings of players,
Mm-hmm.
they are far better than Nebraska on paper, and they should be. It's Indiana.
Yeah. I mean, it's Indiana, exactly. But a very much a blue blood.
Give Fred a lot of credit. He has figured out a way to build a team to compete, and it's not a team of like high-profile recruits.
No,
it's a team of parts where he tried that. He tried to go the Matt Abdelmassih route and build this pretty roster of perceivable prospects.
Yeah, let's just say it like it is. Abdelmassih about brought Fred down. I mean, he almost brought Fred down.
I mean, he brought players here, but they weren't teams.
No, they weren't. So Fred's got a team now. The other part of it that's in this portal era, it's interesting to me because he brought in team guys out of the portal. Rink Mast,
Josiah
Alec, Bryce Williams. They're very much team-oriented guys that have quickly bonded and formed a team. That's kind of tricky to do that.
And look at Wilcher's growth.
Oh yeah, Wilcher. He played so well in the first half. Then unfortunately had back spasms in the second half. But yeah, he was critical in the first half. Wilcher, I always say it, I've been saying it for 2 years. He doesn't always shoot it well, which is strange to me because he's got a beautiful shot. I mean, it's just anybody who knows basketball looks at that release and says, God, how does he? I just don't even know how he misses sometimes. It's a beautiful shot. And he played really well last night.
Well, then you forget about Bryce Williams. I mean, he's obviously
got a really
one of the
good
best
shooter.
scorers they have. And
beautiful shooter.
Juwan Gary. And
Juwan can score. So they put guys around Tominaga. Tominaga doesn't have to carry the load. Now he did last night, 28 points, and he only missed 6 shots. So yeah, it was a great night. It was wrapping it up. It was not only a great night for the basketball team, but it's a good night for Rule's program when he can parade recruits over there and they can see that atmosphere.
Tominaga is as popular of an athlete as there is on campus.
Yep.
And I guess him and Raiola did your boy Nick Sainer from the Ticket. They had a picture together.
Really?
Tominaga and Dylan Raiola.
Interesting night.
Yeah, there was Japanese media in the press conference too.
Saw him score 26.
And Robin tweeted that there were scouts there. I think the scouts were there for mainly the Indiana guys. But, the Japanese media really because that's the story in Japan is Keisei Tominaga, an NBA player. Like he's going to be an overseas player for sure.
Yeah.
But is he NBA guy? Like, can he play in the NBA?
I don't know. Maybe. I'm not Hubie Brown, Sean. I kind of fancy myself that, but it's a stretch. That's a real big stretch.
Well, yeah, is there a role? I mean, the
stretch
because the speed, the size, the athletic ability, the length.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a whole different game when everybody in the NBA is 6'8", 6'9". They can shoot threes.
Oh, it's a stretch. So now they go to Wisconsin, a huge game. 115.
And they'll be underdogs out there. Robin's going out there, by the way.
115 game on Saturday.
I don't know if Robin's going to hit the tornado room, by the way.
He should. Why wouldn't he?
Well, he's by himself, so we'll see.
You can go in there by
yourself.
You
might do the bar. Go in the bar.
Why can't you go in there by yourself?
Tornado room, by the way, is probably one of our favorite steakhouses in the Big Ten in Madison.
Mm-hmm.
They called Steve Sipple Pops.
The waiter, as I contemplated what to get, looked at me and said, "What'll be Pops?"
And he was like your cool millennial guy with tattoos, his sleeves rolled up. And
I don't think he's being disrespectful.
No, he was just kind of a hipster type dude. And
yeah.
He's like, "How about you, Pops?" Robert and I just about lost it.
I'll tell you something. The tornado room I don't know if it gets better than that. If it gets better than a tornado room.
We had some good steaks, though.
I know, but
Bodie's.
I'm telling you, the tornado room might have topped the whole thing.
That's your new number one.
Yeah, that's an incredible spot.
All right. Well, big weekend. Transfer portal visitors, Nebraska basketball. No better time to get on HuskerOnline.com. We got a great special. Get 2 months for $1. Promo code NU1. Check it out. Steve Sipple will have another, I'll call it an award-winning column on Sunday. I don't even know what the topic is.
I don't either. So that just puts a little pressure on me.
It will be award-winning.
Yeah, okay. Good God.
I'm going to start interviewing awards. And
please do.
You.
Please do.
I'm going to make you go to all the banquets for the awards.
No, will not do that. That's a deal breaker.
Well, thanks for joining us. For Steve Sipple, I'm Sean Callahan, signing off for another edition of Husker Online Headlines.